5 years had passed since Takeshi Asakura's trial. I was sitting in my office in Vancouver reviewing a case file for a Syrian refugee facing deportation when my phone rang. It was an unknown number with a Japanese country code. I hesitated, then picked up. "Hello?" Silence for a moment, then a familiar female voice, but tense. "Marwan?" My heart stopped for a moment. "Yuki?" "Yes, it's me. I'm sorry to call you like this. I know it's forbidden, but there's something you need to know." I stood up from my chair, closed my office door. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm fine, but I received a message from Takeshi." I felt a chill run through my veins. "How?" "He's in prison under tight security." "I don't know how, but he did." The message arrived by mail to my flower shop in Sydney. He knew my new name, my address, everything. "What did the message say?" I heard her take a deep breath. "He said he wants to meet us, the three of us, in Tokyo. He said he has something he needs to tell us before he dies." "Dies?" "Yes, apparently Takeshi is sick. Advanced liver cancer. The doctors give him 6 months at most." I sat back down, my mind trying to process all this. Why does he want to meet us? What could he possibly have to tell us? I don't know. But the message was strange. It wasn't a threat, it was a request, as if he was begging. Takeshi Asakura doesn't beg. I know. That's why I'm scared. What if it's a trap? I thought for a moment. "Have you contacted Kenji?" "Yes, I called him before I called you. He also received the same message. He said he doesn't trust Takeshi, but he's curious. He wants to know what the boss wants in his final days." "And what do you want?" Yuki was silent for a long time. "Part of me wants to forget, ignore the message, continue with my life, but another part needs to close this chapter for good. I need to see him one last time, to hear what he wants to say, even if it's a lie." I understood what she meant. I also felt the same way. Despite everything that happened, despite the fact that we won and he lost, there was something incomplete, something left unsaid. "All right," I finally said. "I'll go. We'll go together." "Are you sure?" "No, but I think we need to do this. If this is a trap, at least we'll face it together, and if it's not a trap, maybe we'll get the answers we need." Chapter 2. Return to Tokyo. 2 weeks later, the three of us met at Narita Airport in Tokyo. This was the first time we'd met since we separated 5 years ago. I saw Yuki first. She was wearing a wide hat and sunglasses, but I recognized her immediately. I approached her and we smiled at each other, memories flooding over us. "You've changed," she said, studying me. "You've become more mature, more at peace." "You too," I said. "You look happy." "I was happy," she said with a sad smile, "until that message arrived." Then we saw Kenji approaching. He looked completely different, wearing an elegant suit, his hair neatly styled, carrying a briefcase. He looked like a successful businessman, not a former Yakuza member. "The team reunites," he said with a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. He was tense, I could see that. "How are you, Kenji?" Yuki asked. "Good. Business is going excellently in New York, but I'm worried about this meeting." "We all are," I said. We left the airport and took a taxi to the hotel. We had booked rooms at a small, quiet hotel away from the tourist areas. In the evening, we sat in Kenji's room discussing the plan. "Takeshi said in his message that the meeting will be tomorrow at the prison," Kenji said. "In a private visit with permission from the prison administration. There will be guards, so there's no physical danger. But what does he want?" Yuki wondered. "Why is he asking to see us after all this time?" "Maybe he wants to apologize," I said. But even I didn't believe that. "Takeshi doesn't apologize," Kenji said. "He's planning something. Even on his deathbed, he's still playing." "So what do we do?" Yuki asked. "Do we go or not?" We looked at each other. We all knew the answer. We came here for a reason. We had to finish what we started. "We go," I said. "But we be very careful." They nodded. Chapter 3. Meeting of Ghosts. The next morning we went to Kusatsu Prison, a high-security prison where Takeshi was being held. The building was massive and gray, surrounded by high walls and barbed wire. We were brought through multiple security gates, complete searches, metal detectors. Then they led us through long, cold corridors to a private visitation room. It was a small room with gray walls, a metal table, and simple chairs. On one side of the table were 3 chairs for us, and on the other side 1 chair. We sat and waited. My heart was pounding. After 5 years, I would see Takeshi Asakura again. The door opened and 2 guards entered accompanying a man. I didn't recognize him at first. The Takeshi Asakura before me was just a shadow of the man I had known. He was very thin, almost skeletal, his face pale and sunken, his eyes hollow. His hair, which had been black with some gray, was now completely white. He wore an orange prison uniform and was bound in chains. But when he looked at us, I saw those eyes, the same cold, harsh eyes I had known, even though the body around them was dying. The guard seated Takeshi on the chair opposite us, then stood in the corners of the room watching. A long silence filled the room. Us looking at him looking at us. Finally, Takeshi spoke, his voice hoarse and weak. "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would." "We're here," Yuki said coldly. "What do you want?" He looked at her for a long time, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before: regret. "Yuki," he said quietly. "Or should I say Yuki Asakura, the true heiress." "I don't use that name anymore," she said. "That part of my life is over." "I understand." He took a difficult breath. "I want to tell you something. Something about your father." Yuki leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "What about him?" "I knew him well. We were friends, in fact, before I killed him." He paused, as if gathering his courage. "Kazu was a good man, much better than me. If he had become the boss, he would have changed the family, made it more honorable, less brutal. But you killed him." "Yes, I killed him for power, for greed, for my arrogance." He looked directly into her eyes. "And I killed your grandfather too. And I planned to kill you, but you disappeared before I could find you." "I know all this," Yuki said in a cold voice. "You said it at the trial. Why are you repeating it now?" "Because I want you to know something else, something I've never told anyone before." He paused, then said, "Your father. In the final moments before I killed him, he said something to me." Yuki fell silent, waiting. "He said, 'If something happens to me, protect my daughter. Please, whatever you do to me, don't hurt little Yuki.'" I saw tears gathering in Yuki's eyes. "But I didn't listen," Takeshi continued. "I was filled with anger, with ambition. I thought killing you would erase the last threat to my power, but fortunately one of your father's men saved you." "Why are you telling me this now?" Yuki asked, her voice trembling. "Because I want you to know that your father, even at the end, was thinking of you. He loved you more than his life, and I'm the monster who destroyed all that." He looked at Kenji. "And you, Kenji, Sakamoto's son." Kenji didn't move, his face like stone. "Your father was my friend too," Takeshi said, "but he became a burden. He became a danger, so I got rid of him as I got rid of anyone who stood in my way." "I know," Kenji said coldly. "You testified to that at the trial. But what you don't know," Takeshi continued, "is that your father in the last days before his death was writing memoirs. Memoirs about everything, the corruption, the crimes, all the details. He was planning to turn them over to the authorities. And where are these memoirs? I hid them. I destroyed most of them, but I kept a copy as insurance in case I needed it one day against my enemies." He pulled from his pocket with difficulty a small piece of paper. "This is an address, a safe deposit box at a bank in Tokyo. The memoirs are there." He extended the paper toward Kenji. Kenji hesitated, then took it. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because your father deserves to have his full story told. He deserves to be remembered as a man who tried to atone for his mistakes, not as a cowardly suicide." Then Takeshi looked at me. "And you, the foreigner, Marwan al-Sadiq, what do you want to say to me?" I asked. He smiled a bitter smile. "You were the big surprise. I never expected that a broke tourist would be the reason for my downfall. I wasn't planning any of this. You're the one who made me part of your world. I know, and that's what makes it ironic." He paused, then said, "I want you to know something. The motorcycle you stole that night, what about it? It wasn't a coincidence. It was planted there deliberately." I felt confused. "What do you mean?" "I was testing you. After the fight in the gambling den, I was curious about you. A foreigner, a lawyer, not afraid to fight. I wanted to see what you would do in a desperate situation. So we left the motorcycle there, waiting to see if you would steal it." You planned all that?" Yes, I was playing with you from the beginning, but the game turned against me. He laughed a faint, bitter laugh. The player became the game. I couldn't speak. All this time I thought stealing the motorcycle was my desperate decision, but it was a trap, a test. Why are you telling us all this? Yuki asked. What's the point? Takeshi looked at all of us, his eyes moving from one to another. Because I'm dying, he said simply. And before I die, I want to face the truth. I want to confess not to judges or lawyers, but to you, the people whose lives I destroyed. He took a difficult breath, clearly in pain. I lived my life by force, by fear, by deception. I built an empire on the corpses of the innocent. I thought power was everything, that it was worth any price. But now, as I sit here alone, sick, waiting for death, I realize I gain nothing. No family, no real friends, no love, no real respect, just fear and hatred. And you three, he looked at us. Even though I destroyed your lives, you found a way to rise. You found each other, you found purpose, you found justice. You found what I never found, redemption. He was silent for a moment, then said in a barely audible voice, I'm sorry. Sorry for everything I did to you, to your families, to all the victims. I know my apology means nothing now, but it's all I have. Chapter 4. The Impossible Forgiveness. We all fell silent, uncertain how to respond. Takeshi's apology seemed sincere, but how could we believe a man who had lied and deceived his entire life? You think an apology will erase everything you did? Yuki finally said, her voice trembling with anger. You killed my family, you stole my childhood, my identity, everything from me. How can sorry be enough? It can't, Takeshi said quietly. I know that. Nothing can be enough, but it's all I can offer. And you expect us to forgive you? Kenji said, his anger evident. To say it's okay, everything's forgotten? No, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. He looked at us with tired eyes. I just wanted to tell the truth for once in my life. I wanted you to know that I realize in the end the magnitude of the evil I did. Yuki suddenly stood up, her chair making a sharp sound on the floor. I can't be here. I can't listen to this. She headed toward the door, but before she left, she turned and looked at Takeshi one last time. You destroyed my life, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. But I rebuilt it. I found happiness despite you. That's my real victory, and I'm happy for you, Takeshi said sincerely. Truly. She looked at him for a long time, then said quietly, I will never forgive you. But I won't carry hatred for you in my heart after today. You don't even deserve that. Then she left the room. Kenji looked at Takeshi, conflict evident in his eyes. Finally, he said, You killed my father. You made me live years believing he was a coward. You stole his true memory from me. I know. But Kenji paused, trying to find the words. Because of you also, I became who I am now. The strength I needed to stand against you, the courage to do what's right, all came from the pain you caused. So thank you, he said with bitter sarcasm. And also go to hell. He stood and left as well. I remained alone with Takeshi and the silent guards in the corners. And you, Marwan? Takeshi asked. What will you say to me? I thought for a long time. You changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. I came to Japan as a naive tourist and left as a completely different person. Is that good or bad? Both. I went through hell because of you, but I also found strength I didn't know I had. I found true friends in Yuki and Kenji. I found a purpose bigger than myself, so I helped you in a way. No, I said firmly. You didn't help me. You made me face the worst in humanity. What helped me was my choice to stand against you, my choice to fight for justice. I stood up. You're dying alone, Takeshi. Without family, without friends, without anyone to mourn you. That's the real punishment for a life of violence and betrayal. I know. As for me, Yuki and Kenji, despite all the pain, we found a path to meaningful lives. We are the real winners. I turned my back to leave, but his voice stopped me. Marwan. I turned. Take care of them, Yuki and Kenji. They're your real family now. I looked at him one last time. I didn't need you to tell me that. And I left, leaving Takeshi Asakura alone with his regret. Chapter 5. The Legacy. Outside the prison, I found Yuki and Kenji waiting. Yuki had wiped away her tears and Kenji was holding the piece of paper Takeshi had given him. "Are you both okay?" I asked. Yuki nodded. "I will be. I needed to close that chapter. Now I have." "And you?" I asked Kenji. He looked at the paper in his hand. "I'll go to the bank tomorrow. I'll retrieve my father's memoirs. I want to read his story in his own words, not as others told it." "Do you want us to come with you?" Yuki asked. Kenji thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No, this is something I need to do alone, but thank you." "What do we do now?" Yuki asked. "Go back to our lives." I looked at them. "We have a few days before our return flights. Maybe we should spend some time together. Not as hidden witnesses, but as friends." Yuki smiled. "I like that idea." "Me too," Kenji said. Chapter 6. The Last Days Together. We spent the next 3 days exploring Tokyo together, but this time as real tourists, not as fugitives or hunted people. We visited Sensoji Temple in Asakusa, where we lit incense and prayed for peace. We walked through Shinjuku Gyoen Gardens, contemplating the blooming cherry blossoms. We had dinner at small restaurants, laughing and talking about our new lives. Yuki told stories about her flower shop in Sydney and how she became part of a small, warm community. Kenji talked about his success in New York and how he helps small companies protect themselves from crime. And I shared stories of the refugees I helped in Canada. On the second day, Kenji went to the bank and retrieved the safe deposit box. When he returned to us at the hotel that evening, he was carrying an old notebook worn at the edges. "These are my father's memoirs," he said, his voice full of emotion. I read them all, every word. He sat down and began to tell us. His father had written everything: how he initially got involved with Takeshi, how the corruption gradually developed, how he tried to get out in the end. But the most touching part was in the last pages, where Kenji's father had written letters to his son. Kenji read with a trembling voice. "To my son Kenji, if you read this one day, it means I'm gone. I want you to know that I love you more than anything in the world. Every mistake I made, every bad decision I took was to secure your future. But I've realized now that money and power are not a future. Honor, integrity, the courage to do what's right, these are the things that make a man great. I hope you'll be better than me. I hope you'll choose the right path, even if it's difficult." When he finished reading, tears were streaming down Kenji's cheeks. He was trying to protect me. Until the end. Yuki hugged him. "Your father was a brave man and you honor him with what you've become. I'm going to publish these memoirs," Kenji said, wiping his tears. "I'll make sure the world knows his true story. He won't be remembered as a corrupt suicide, but as a man who tried to atone for his mistakes." On the third day, we went to a quiet cemetery outside Tokyo. There we found the graves of the Asakura family, Hiroshi and Kazu, Yuki's grandfather and father. Yuki stood before her father's grave, carrying a bouquet of beautiful flowers we had bought on our way. She placed the flowers on the grave and knelt down. "Father," she whispered, her voice choking with tears. "I'm Yuki, your daughter. I never knew you, but I feel you in my heart. I want you to know that I'm okay. I survived. I built a beautiful life. And the man who killed you, he paid the price. Justice was served. I hope you're proud of me. I hope I'm the daughter you dreamed of." She cried quietly for several minutes, and Kenji and I stood behind her in silence, respecting her grief. Finally, she stood up and wiped her tears. "It's time to let him rest in peace. I'm ready now." We left the cemetery, and I felt that we had all closed an important chapter in our lives. Chapter 7. The Final Goodbye. On the morning of the fourth day, the time came to say goodbye. Our flights were at different times: Yuki to Sydney first, then me to Vancouver, and finally Kenji to New York. We met at a small cafe near the airport for one last breakfast together. "I don't want to say goodbye," Yuki said, her eyes gleaming with tears. "I feel like we're family now." "We are family," Kenji said. "A family we chose ourselves, not a blood family. But this time," I said, "we won't completely disappear from each other." I took out a piece of paper and wrote my personal email on it. "This isn't my official work email, it's my private account. You can contact me whenever you want." Yuki did the same, and so did Kenji. We exchanged information. "We won't be able to meet often," Kenji said, "but at least we'll stay in touch." Maybe in the future, Yuki said. When things calm down more, we can meet once every few years, in a neutral place as ordinary tourists. I like that idea, I said. We drank our coffee in silence for a few minutes, each of us trying to preserve this moment in memory. You know, Yuki finally said, when this journey began, I was filled with hatred and desire for revenge. I thought that was all that mattered. But now I realize that true revenge wasn't in seeing Takeshi go to prison. It was in building a happy life, a meaningful life. It was in finding you, my true friends. And I, Kenji said, lived years carrying anger over my father's death. But now, after reading his memoirs, I understand that the best way to honor him isn't by carrying hatred, but by being the man he wanted me to be. They looked at me. And I said, came to Japan looking for adventure, for escape from an ordinary life. I got more than I bargained for, a nightmare that turned into a transformative journey. I learned that justice isn't always easy or clear. Sometimes it requires you to step off the path, to risk everything, to trust people who were initially enemies. But most importantly, I continued, I learned that the most powerful weapon against injustice isn't force or money, but truth, and the courage to speak the truth, whatever the cost. I raised my coffee cup. To truth, justice, and friendship. Yuki and Kenji raised their cups. To truth, justice, and friendship. Chapter 8. The End and the Beginning. 3 months after my return to Vancouver, I received news from Japan. Takeshi Asakura had died in prison. Cancer ate him from the inside, just as hatred and regret ate him. He died alone, without family, without friends, with no one attending his funeral except prison guards. I sent an email to Yuki and Kenji informing them. Yuki replied, I felt sad when I heard the news, not because I loved him, but because his life was a warning of what happens when you choose the wrong path. May God have mercy on him despite everything. Kenji wrote, my father's story was finally published. His memoirs became a book and it's selling well in Japan. People are talking about his courage, his attempt at atonement. His legacy was restored to him. Thank Takeshi for that, at least. After another year, I received an invitation from Yuki. She was getting married to a nice Australian man she met at the flower shop. She asked Kenji and me to attend the wedding. This was our chance to meet again, under happy circumstances this time. I traveled to Sydney, and there I met Kenji at the airport. We hugged each other like brothers. How are you, my friend? He asked. Good. Life is good. And you? Wonderful. The company is growing. I have employees now. We help hundreds of companies every year. We went together to the wedding. It was in a beautiful garden full of colorful flowers, all Yuki's arrangements, of course. When we saw her, she looked radiant, happy, perfect in her white wedding dress. When she saw us, she ran and hugged us tightly. You came. I wasn't sure you'd be able to. We wouldn't miss this for anything in the world, I said. The ceremony was beautiful. Yuki's husband, named David, was a genuinely nice man, clearly in love with her. When they exchanged vows, tears streamed down Yuki's cheeks, but they were tears of happiness this time. At the party afterward, the three of us sat in a quiet corner, drinking champagne and talking. Look at us, Kenji said with a smile. Who would have thought we'd end up here, at a wedding, alive, happy? I wouldn't have bet on it 6 years ago, Yuki said, laughing. 6 years, I repeated. It seems like another life. It was another life, Kenji said. We're different people now, but we still carry that story with us, I said. It's part of us, of our identity, and we'll always carry it, Yuki said. But we won't let it define us. We're more than our past. I looked at them, these two people who entered my life in the most unexpected way and became my dearest friends. I want to say something, I said. Thank you both for teaching me the meaning of true courage, true friendship, and true redemption. No, thank you, Yuki said, for believing in us when we didn't believe in ourselves. Thank you both, Kenji said, for giving me a second chance at life. We raised our glasses. 2 second chances. To the family we choose. To the future. Epilogue. 10 years had passed since that night in Tokyo when I stole the motorcycle that changed my life. I'm now in my 40s, a partner in a law firm specializing in refugee cases in Vancouver. I've helped hundreds of families build new lives in Canada. I married a wonderful Canadian woman named Sarah, and we have a little daughter named Layla. Yuki is still in Sydney, happy with her husband and 2 children. Her flower shop has become a small chain now, known throughout the city. Kenji is in New York. His company has become one of the best security consulting firms in America. He's also married with a son he named after his father. We communicate via email regularly, sharing photos of our children, stories of our successes, and our daily problems. Once every few years we meet somewhere in the world, once in Paris, once in Bangkok, once in Rio. But we never return to Tokyo. Some places should be left in the past. Sometimes on quiet nights I sit on my balcony and look at the stars and think about those days, the fear, the danger, the excitement, the adventure. Part of me misses it, that life on the edge. But then I look inside where my wife is reading a book and my daughter is playing with her toys, and I realize this is real life. This is the true peace I fought for. Last week my daughter Layla asked me, "Daddy, did you have adventures when you were young?" I smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, I had one big adventure." "Tell me about it." I looked at Sarah, who smiled and nodded. She knew the story, of course. I told her everything when we got married. "All right," I said, lifting Layla onto my lap. "A long time ago, I went to a faraway country called Japan, and I began to tell the story of a naive tourist, a beautiful thief, a traitorous right-hand man, and a cruel gang leader. A story about betrayal and revenge, about justice and redemption, about true friendship that grew from darkness. Of course, I omitted the parts that were too violent. I made it a story suitable for a 6-year-old, but the essence of the story remained the same. And in the end, I finished the story. The good guys won, the bad guys lost, and everyone lived happy lives. Like a fairy tale," Layla said with shining eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, like a fairy tale. But deep inside, I knew it was much more than that. It was a true story about real people who faced real evil and chose to fight for what was right. And that, more than any fairy tale, is what made it worth telling." "10 years after his ill-fated trip to Tokyo, Marwan al-Sadiq, now officially known as Kaito Nakamura, but having reclaimed his true identity in his private life, built a meaningful life. He, Yuki, and Kenji didn't let their past define them, but used it as a launching point toward a better future. Takeshi Asakura, who built an empire on fear and violence, died alone and forgotten. But the 3 who stood against him found something more valuable than any empire. They found redemption, peace, and love. And so ends the story of the Moroccan lawyer who came to Tokyo as a tourist and became an unlikely hero in a battle against one of the most powerful Yakuza families in Japan. A story that proved that even in the darkest moments, even when everything seems lost, truth and courage can prevail. And that the stranger, the outcast, the person who doesn't belong, can be the strongest warrior for justice, because he has nothing to lose but his chains and everything to gain.